The United Kingdom has a long history of a fraught relationship with the European Union. In 2016, the British referendum gave place to several questions and discussion towards the next step of the European Union regarding the United Kingdom. Citizens blaming other sectors of society, the path of transnational businesses in the UK, academic programs abroad and free movement, the structure of the European Parliament regarding the number and distribution of seats, and one of the most important and discussed questions: does the Brexit spell the end of the European Union? Well, we believe that the exit of the United Kingdom from the EU does not represent by any means the demise of the Union, nor it affects its legitimacy. In this video, we will analyze the effects of Brexit in the European legal, social and political spheres, in order to determine whether or not it implies the beginning of the end of the European Union. First of all, we need to understand what Brexit means and where does it come from. The proposal of the UK is not a surprise, since there was another attempt in 1975, when another referendum took place, which resulted in its remain in the European communities. Nevertheless, the difference that time was of 67.2% in favor and 32.7% against, while in the Brexit the number was quite hard-fought, with 51.9% against 48.1%. The European Union is one of the most important organizations regarding regional economic integration, culture and political structure in the world. The results of the historical enlargements of the EU led to 28 member states. However, since its very incorporation, the United Kingdom established specific limits and did not accept all aspects of the integration, such as the euro or the Schengen space. UK's comparatively limited integration into the EU is manifested in citizens' self-identity, in their mistrust of the EU, in patterns of emigration, in international trade flows, and in foreign investment allocations. The UK was one of the most notable members of the EU, but it never changed its currency given its remarkably favorable financial position. In 1997, the Prime Minister Tony Blair, alongside his Chancellor of the Exchequer, Gordon Brown, made several examinations to evaluate if the UK should or should not adopt the euro. Number 1 was convergence, compatible interest rates. Number 2 was flexibility, the capacity to deal with local and aggregate economic issues. The number 3 was investment, to establish conditions conducive to firms and individuals investing in the UK. Number 4, financial services, that is to have competitive position worldwide. And number 5, employment and growth, that is to promote higher growth, create jobs and economic stability in the region. According to a survey made by the BBC, many believe that the 5 economic tests, as constructed, set benchmarks so difficult to satisfy that shifting to the euro from the pound sterling could never be justified. Britain's comparatively less European self-identity and lower trust in the EU may have come about for the following reasons. First, Britain was the only allied European power not to have been occupied during World War II. Second, Britain has its own legal system based on common law, which contrasts with the civil law system of continental Europe. Third, because Britain has an established church, most English Christians have historically owed their allegiance to a national institution headed by the monarch, rather than to an international institution headed by the Pope. Fourth, Britain is an island whose surrounding waters have partially isolated it from cultural developments on the continent. From a legal perspective, there is no way to sustain that Brexit will lead to an eventual dissolution of the EU. Withdrawal of a member state from the European Union was already contemplated in the Treaty of Lisbon, which amended the Treaty of the European Union of 1993 and the Treaty of Rome of 1957. On Article 50, on its paragraphs 1 and 2, states that any member state may decide to withdraw from the Union in accordance with its own constitutional requirements by notifying the European Council, which shall negotiate and conclude an agreement with that state, setting out the corresponding agreements. Originating partly from the party-based opposition to the European Community in the UK in the 1980s, the scope of Euroscepticism has considerably evolved over time, with the development of the deeper and wider European Union. Euroscepticism is no longer a solely party-based phenomenon. It now appears across the continent and in new public arenas, in the media, within civil society, and at the transnational and pan-European levels. On one hand, Euroscepticism, represented by Brexit, has led to the emergence of an academic subfield of European studies dealing with the Union's potential disintegration. On the other hand, there is an increasing political field dominance for right-wing political parties, naturally supporting Brexit along with Euroscepticism. Although Brexit does not specifically imply that the European Union will disappear, there is no denying that changes to its core structure will occur. For starters, the number of representatives in the European Parliament, as well as the distribution of seats originally occupied by the UK, will be reorganized after Britain leaves. Out of the 73 seats they currently have, 46 will remain empty until more states join the Union, reducing the number of active MEPs from 751 to 705, and 27 will be redistributed among other slightly underrepresented countries, as follows. Denmark will go from 13 to 14 MEPs, Estonia from 6 to 7, Ireland from 11 to 13, Spain from 54 to 59, France from 74 to 79, Croatia from 11 to 12, Italy from 73 to 76, the Netherlands from 26 to 29, Austria from 18 to 19, Poland from 51 to 52, Romania from 32 to 33, both Slovakia and Finland from 13 to 14, and finally Sweden from 20 to 21. From a realist perspective, one may think that the absence of the United Kingdom will represent a shift in the balance of power within the European Union, as it may allow powerhouses such as France and Germany to consolidate more power. However, the European Union argues that the decision takes into account the population of member states and follows the principle of digressive proportionality. That means that countries that are smaller in terms of population should have fewer MEPs than bigger countries. Furthermore, let us not forget that the composition of the parliament is given by political affiliation, not precisely by country of origin, which prevents the concentration of political powers on a determined niche of member states. Finally, a less radical idea for Europe-wide ratification of a proposed EU treaty might have a greater chance of success. For example, by having individual member state ratifications that could take place according to existing constitutional practice, whether by parliamentary ratification or by referendum, taking place within the same time period. This way, decisions within one country might be less influenced by those in the others, and some form of Europe-wide campaign on the proposals could be mounted. In conclusion, Britain is the least well-integrated EU member state, European, but just not European enough. While short-term contingencies and concerns about other issues may have tipped the balance towards leaving, we believe that, as the EU moves closer towards political union, the UK's fundamentally less European character meant that Brexit was increasingly likely. Furthermore, the departure of the United Kingdom by itself does not jeopardize the legitimacy of the European Union, but the rise of Euroscepticism, provoked mostly by radical right parties from all across Europe. Only if these kinds of views of European integration become more and more prominent at the state level, we could probably face the exit of other members of the Union.